Thanks everybody for joining. I was really excited to hear when Jane told me the number of people that had registered, and I thought, wow, that bio that she wrote up and that picture must have really sold me. But then I heard that we had a big gift that was part of the birthday celebration. That kind of put me back in my place. Well, again, thank you, Jane, and hello everybody. Good morning. And thanks for joining us to celebrate 15 years, 15th birthday for TG Jacks. And, like any party, let's see. The B-Day party topics we've got is, first of all, why are we celebrating? A little bit of the backstory, the birth of TG and some baby pics, figuratively. And then looking at some siblings in the family tree in the 15 years that it's been around. For those of you who may be asking what is TG or what is a TG, TG is the connector termination technology innovated by Panduit. And it's not about the front of the jack, which is what gets most of the attention. The IEC specs, there's a number of specs that control that interface at the RJ45 side, the blue arrow there on the left, for the front of the jack and the mating part of the plug. What we're talking about here, TG is a connection termination technology for the back of the jack, and that's the part on the right. And we've pulled it away a little bit so you can see the detail there. We'll look more at that. But on that side of the interconnect, this is where the bulk cable comes in to the modular jack. And one way or another, you've got to terminate those 4 pairs, 8 conductors in the field. And TG is a way to do it that we feel, by virtue of it having been around and still going strong after 15 years, is worth celebrating. So we'll learn more about that here in a minute. Like I said, we launched 15 years ago, so 2005, and still going strong. Has proven to be a time-saving, reliable, and versatile solution. And it's got a market longevity that's really kind of rare. When you think back 15 years, what was going on, how many technologies not only are not just still around, but actively solving new problems in the market today. So we're going to take a look at that in the coming slides. So backstory, first of all, if we look at this timeline, which goes way back to the 1990 era, and we look at Ethernet speeds and cabling performance categories over that time period. So without reading them all, 99, 100, or 1000 base T came along, and we were getting ready for the ratification in a few years. This is back in the 03, 04 time period. We're getting ready for the 10G base T ratification, which we thought was going to happen in 05, but it happened in 06. And then closely following the Ethernet speed ratifications are the cabling performance categories. And just picking it up at 1999 with the TIA 568A Cat 5E. And then in 2002, Category 6 had just been ratified as also supporting 1000 base T at more margin. And again, we were looking forward to the next category, which was going to be 6A, to carry 10G base T. Now, those of you familiar with cabling know that as the bit rate and the frequency increases, crosstalk issues are also going to increase. And going from 1000 base T to 10G base T, 10 gig Ethernet, you do run into more crosstalk concerns, both within the connector and between adjacent links. So if we take a look at the typical wire termination technologies that have kind of been around and were around in that general period, these aren't in exact order necessarily, and they don't stop and start. You'll see every one of these still in use today. Screw terminals, 110 punch down, which 110 is, of course, just one type of a IDC block where it has a number of connectors in a row, and you use a one at a time punch down tool to punch down the connectors, and you see a picture of it there. And then some connectors themselves can have modular punch down interconnect on the back side, and with these you would use the punch down tool with the connector mounted in a panel, and you would put it in that way. Now, for Panduit, by that time frame, in the 03-04 time frame, we had a couple offerings out there already for jacks. The first was in 1992, the sleeve frame jack, which basically it was a row of IDCs standing upright, and instead of it being a punch down, it had that little clear cap, and you would use channel locks or parallel pliers to bring that top to bottom and seat all the wires over the IDCs. We followed that up in '99 with a product that we call the TP, and that was designed to start to deal with the twist in the cable and kind of map the wires in a way that was a little more friendly for the construction of the cable, and that was really geared toward Cat 6. But looking toward 6A, the sense was that we needed a new type of termination style to reliably support Category 6A, and that's how TG as a termination method started development. So we had a few objectives: make it reliable, quick, and easy for 6A terminations. We wanted to make sure it had robust electricals because of the increased concern for mitigating crosstalk, both near and far end within the link, as well as alien crosstalk. So we wanted to keep the cable twist controlled and keep it as close as possible to the IDC, where the cable would connect to the back of the connector. And we wanted to create stability for the twisted pair conductors, because when they move around, either as it's being terminated or after the fact, that's not really good for the connection and can create some instability. And finally, we wanted to keep a consistent performance level with a range of installer skill. So our goal was to try to kind of do some sort of system that would allow people of varying levels of skill to be able to terminate it consistently, quickly, reliably. And really the goal was lowest total cost, and that was cost for install by it being quick. That was cost for not having to redo because of the good reliability and the designed-in features to make it easy to do properly. And then it was also total cost in terms of not having to replace the unit because of the 100% testing that Panduit always does on its jack modules and the quality that we build in. So those were the goals. And what we ended up with is with the birth of TG here. And this was in the late 2004 timeframe. And the solution that we came up with was this forward motion wire manager. It's a lot of words, but really the magic here, the secret sauce, is these wire caps that you see at the top and bottom of the page. Now, several unique things about them. They have a quadrant layout to match the cable. They incorporated wire separators so that you don't have to untwist at all or very, very minimally to make the termination, and that has a lot of benefits that we'll look at. Incorporated a true strain relief to the jacket of the cable, and this is different from still a lot of the systems out there today, in that this is a compression strain relief that actually is removable as well for retermination if that's needed. And then the IDCs of the jack are protected because they're recessed in that deep pocket that you see in that white area of the blue jack looking from the back. So looking more closely at some of the key features that really make the TG platform so versatile and so attractive and have for many years. From the left, we've got the pair separators that I mentioned, and you'll see that little peak that arrow is pointing to in the one view, and you can see that it's most pointed toward the inside, which is where the cable comes out. It comes through from the bottom and then routes to either side. So that separator is pointed right there so that it helps separate the twist without removing any more of the twist than necessary. Stepping over, we've got the conductor retention fingers. You see those little downward facing fingers. What those serve to do is with each conductor, when it's dropped in, and as the note says, we've got dedicated pockets for each conductor. This is really important because what this helps is to terminate this quickly and know that you've got the conductors in the proper place. And the retention fingers help hold the conductors there during the termination process so that once you've dropped them into those pockets, they really do stay there, even to the degree that you can remove the wire cap from the back of the jack, and those conductors will still be in place. And then finally, on the far right, that true ratcheting strain relief, you'll see that feature up there. We'll see it in the next slides, but you can see how it ratchets down and then has two fingers so it can be released and moved back up. And then that quadrant layout of wire cap. And what's important about our quadrant? Well, we're mating to 4-pair Ethernet cabling, and those pairs all have twists in them so that they increase the coupling and reduce the crosstalk natively in the cable. And you want to continue that layout for as long as you can, which is what the TG jack allows the cable to do, so that the twisted pairs can stay in their quadrants, they separate out, and they stay as a pair into each quadrant. And we'll look at that in the next couple slides. So a few details shown here. On the far left, the strain relief activation. We use our multi-purpose compact tool. It's one of 3 tools that can be used in the Panduit connector system for PanNet. The green one is EGJT-1, and that is multi-purpose, as they all are. On the back side, it's used to press down that cap, as you see going from 1 to 2 there. It's kind of hard to see the difference, but you can see that the green tool is pushed a little bit further down, and it's pushing on the strain relief feature, and you can see it actually change position there in the slide. And then in the center, if you look closely now, you'll see that there's like a gap above where you can tell that the strain relief has been pushed down on the cable jacket. Again, this is pretty unique in the market because we want to lock down that cable without transferring any of the load or vibration to the conductors. Then finally, on the far right, here are these pair separators in action. And if you zoom up closely in this view, you'll see that these pairs have been only very locally untwisted in that area. And that means several things. One, I haven't had to spend time actually untwisting all those wires, and they're at different twist rates. So I'm saving time there, but also the key thing is I'm not changing I'm not untwisting it too far back. What we find a lot with people when they're untwisting the pairs is that if you have to untwist, you just keep untwisting, and you may untwist too far back, and then the pair no longer has that designed in twist to the last possible point. So that little separator barb there, what that does is help create that separation locally within the twisted pair without having to untwist it. And that's dressed just as you see, and most of the time you can dress it with twists that are that tight. Some more features of the wire cap approach, the forward motion TG technology. Lots of room for the cable entry. This is the stripped prepped cable, and with the pairs fanned out, you notice they're still twisted, and then you would insert them like we saw in the former slide. Looking at the image in the bottom, the cap then, after you've trimmed the conductors, you can see they are dressed there in place. The cap features help to ensure a smooth insertion to the jack housing, and you lightly press that together, and then you take the tool, the same EGJT-1 tool, and you flip it around on the other side where it is a camming tool, and you use this to basically seat the cap, and it's doing this with no stress on the cable. You can see there that the cable is sticking out straight. The tool is actually bearing on the back of the wire cap, and it simply slides into place, and the IDCs are facing front to back. So there's no jarring, there's no shock or anything transferred to the connector. It's very easily done, and the tool gives you enough leverage to do that very easily. And we find that with just a little bit of experience, installers usually are doing terminations in 60 seconds or less, and that's even for me, and by no means what I call experienced. So let's look at the growth of the family tree here from the TG. So of course we started out with the Cat 6A jack. We did launch in the end of 04, beginning of 05, and we were ready for that ratification in 06 of the 10G base T, and in 2008 for the Cat 6A standard. While we had developed this originally for 6A, we found that it was so user-friendly and so easy to do really any kind of category termination, even 5E or 6. We migrated it backward, actually, to our lower category standards, and actually those have become, as a whole, the TG family by far our most popular and highest selling jack termination technology. We then were able to migrate using the versatility of the wire cap footprint. We were able to migrate over to the shielded footprint in 5E, 6, and 6A. And those are the jacks that you see there. I've turned them around so you can see the backside, and because that's where you see the difference with the wire cap. We changed the colors of the wire cap just to have as a convenience, so that when you're looking from the back of the rack or back of the panel, that you can easily tell what the performance category is of the jacks that are on the front side there. So that was kind of an obvious one to do. Of course, you know, do the other categories in UTP and do the categories in shielded. Some more siblings that have come along, actually, and this is, again, the versatility of this wire cap approach. We were able to do quite effectively these 45-degree angled. First, we did the UTP, the unshielded jacks and caps. We did these 45-degree angled solutions in both an up-down and a reversible wire cap. That's what's shown in the UTP versions that you're looking at. And then a left-right, which actually the configuration is shown in the lower part of the page on the shielded. So each one of those can be put on either one direction or the other. So we did that for category 5E, 6, and 6A, as you see with the colored blue for category 6A, white for category 6, and red for 5E. So if you think about that, with up, down, and left, right combinations, now you've got 4 different directions in addition to straight out. So you've got 5 direction capability using the same jack, same panels, and we'll see in a minute what you can do with that. It's pretty exciting. Then we took it to shielded. Again, the versatility of the wire cap design and the whole TG approach, which, again, it's saying something what a design can be. And at this point, it was well over a decade old before we launched even the UTP angled versions. So we're excited about that, and that's given us a broad range of angled connectivity solutions to go along with all the straight applications. And you might be asking, well, where would I use something like that? You see the pictures with the cable. We are seeing a ton of customers get really excited about the space savings when you, in this illustration, the blue cabling is dressed using the left-right angled 45 wire caps on a 6A, and then the red is using the conventional straight wire caps. And you can see that, especially with an angled panel, which typically you're desiring that because of wanting to get that clearance on the front, not the clearance rather, but the feeding of the patch cords most directly into the vertical managers on either side on the front of the rack. However, on the back, you can see that for the red cable, it's not really doing you any favors, and it starts taking up a lot of room. If you look at what the comparison is in size here, you see that with doing nothing to dress the cable, and honestly, the blue cable this is naturally the way that the cable would dress compared to the red. It really takes about half of the cable bulk away that you have to work through and manage on the back side of the rack. So a lot of customers would do this. Obviously, they wouldn't do one side angled and one side straight. This is just a comparison, but you can get the feel for how much space this will open up on the back side of the rack, which just means more light, more working room, less distance I have to reach to fish out a cable if you have to do a move, add, or change. And then finally, the newest TG siblings actually aren't jacks at all. They're a new family of field terminal plugs, and we have adopted, though, the TG technology pretty much directly into these. The plugs are, of course, a little bit smaller than a jack, so it's a slightly different form factor, but the mapping is the same. So we started with the UTP plug in the straight configuration at the top. We then introduced the UTP 45 angled up-down version, and we stopped on the up-down with the UTP on that just because, or stopped us and didn't proceed with the left-right as we had on jacks, because there really does not appear to be much of a market opportunity for that, but we're always listening to feedback from customers. And then finally, we were able to do those same sorts of things with the, as we did on the straight shielded jacks with the TG footprint into our shielded field turn plug in the straight configuration. So everything that I've covered with you would use one of these simple tools. All straight TG jacks, which is the majority of what customers use for the most part, would use that EGJ-T-1 tool, the green tool in the middle. The violet colored tool at the top will work for all field term plugs, and the EGJ-T will also accommodate either the straight or the straight UTP or the straight shielded field term plug as well. If you do have any of the angled 45 jacks, the 45-degree angled jacks, you would use the tool on the left. It's a special configuration because the cable ends up having to feed in 4 different possible directions. So the jack has to be able to flip and sit flat in 4 different positions. So if we bring this now to a family tree, we get something that looks like this, which from a 15-year-old technology that is actively having development around it, it's pretty impressive. So if we look across, we've got 3 groups of products here: UTP TG jacks on the left side, field term plugs, UTP and shielded in the middle, and then shielded TG jacks on the right side. And then if we go down and look at each row, or excuse me, each column, you see that the 5E6 and 6A rows in the middle with the field term plugs. It's one category, 6A, that is backward compatible to the 6 and 5E, and then the same with the shielded with the 5E6 and 6A. looking on the rows, we've got, all the configurations that we just talked about. Straight, 45 up and down, 45 left, right. And then even one that I didn't mention, which is a special TG jack for terminating 28 and 30 gauge cable, like you might want to do with doing an equipment cord in the field with a 28 gauge patch cord. If you're going to do that, of course, you'll notice that those slots on the 28 and 30 gauge, the slots which are down at the bottom of each of the wire caps, they're much more narrow than the other ones. So we're able to do all of these variations and a significant number of products when you think about all the different colors of jacks and so forth, out of one technology that's been around for 15 years. So we think that it's appropriate to say happy 15th birthday. TG, of course, provides a fast and reliable termination for a variety of categories. It's incredibly versatile. We're continuing to develop based on it. And it is essentially one termination technology for all your copper connections. I put that to the test myself with the introduction of our field term plug, putting it in the hands of seasoned TG jack installers, and said, you don't even need to read the instructions. And before I could even get my camera out, they'd finished terminating the field term plug. So it's a common technology platform that you can use across both plugs and jacks, and straight and angle configuration. So really appreciate everybody joining us today, and just want to offer for you to give our TG jacks and field term plugs a try if you haven't. And thanks for attending. And I think now we'll get to what everybody's waiting for, which is the questions and the giveaway.
So thank you, Tom. We will use this time to answer questions. So if you do have questions, please enter them in the GoToWebinar app question section. We did have a couple come in, Tom, while you were presenting. The first is, can I use an angled shielded wire cap on a shielded field term plug?
That's a good question. We get that actually, I'm going to go back to this here for just a moment. The question the person's asked there is basically, can they take one of the shielded wire caps that are the red, white, or blue colors and use it in place of the black shielded wire cap, which is for the plug? They are similarly configured. They are mapped the same. However, they're not compatible, because if you look closely at the family tree here, you'll see that the plug is smaller in footprint. So that wire cap will actually not fit onto the plug, and the plug wire cap will also not fit into the jack. So neither way are they compatible, but good question.
Okay, and our second question here is, what does the TG stand for?
Do we have to have I guess we have to have a meaning for that. I've asked that myself, and I just want to give shout out right now to Satish Patel. He's a distinguished engineer with Panduit, and really helped me on the background for a lot of this. But I knew the TG meaning. Aside from that, I just wanted to give a shout out to Satish. TG was originally for 10 gig, and that was looking ahead to that 10 gigabit per second transmission rate, and that corresponding Cat 6A capability. So good questions there. Do we have any others?
Yeah, we actually just had a couple come in. The angled jack panel with the angled jack that saves space behind the panel. Are the jacks installed from the front of the panel or the rear of the panel?
So I'm going to go back to this. They actually, in this case, with this flush mount modular panel, the jacks are installed from the rear, and they are popped in, and the angled configuration does allow the jacks to sequentially pop in and be removed. You might have the impression that maybe that's going to lock them up somehow, but it actually does not. They can freely be popped in and out and be plugged in from the back. Of course, if you had another one of our, like a furniture faceplate modular patch panel where you can drop it in from the front, they could be loaded in from the front. So either way would work, but in this case, they were loaded from the back.
We've actually had a few more come in. We'll take just a couple minutes here to go through one or two. Does Panduit offer a shielded Category 6A wire for use with these jacks?
Yes, yes, we do. We have a variety. We have a wide range of both shielded and UTP cable offerings, with depending on the particular application you're looking for. We're beginning to get into more some outside plant offerings, but certainly with riser and plenum, and then in some of the Euroclass cables for primarily outside of North America.
Okay.
North America.